welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the movie Fight or Flight, which stars Josh Hartnett. This is a movie that I didn't really know much about going into it. Piqued my interest when I saw that Josh Hartnett was the lead here. I love that we're getting a Hartnett-assance, as I would like to call it, because Josh Hartnett took off from acting for a while. He kind of went under the radar for quite a few years, and now over the last 4 or 5 years, he's kind of having a nice resurgence. Unfortunately, most of the movies that he's been in haven't been all that great, but he's been putting in some pretty solid performances overall, and so that piqued my interest for Fight or Flight. Unfortunately, the movie didn't quite work the way I would have liked it to. It's very action-packed. It has a lot going for it. It's got a lot of potential and everything, but in the end, I just didn't feel like it really did a whole lot for me. You do get a fantastic Josh Hartnett performance in this movie, and that goes without saying because he pretty much always gives a good performance. But this movie felt like another one of these movies in this long string that we've been having for basically about 20 years now of, hey, let's take a middle-aged guy and just turn him into a crazy action star all of a sudden. They did it with Liam Neeson with Taken, and then he went on to have so many movies where he's just a big crazy action star. They've done it with Denzel Washington. They've done it with Bob Odenkirk. Earlier this year, they did it with Ke Huy Quan. Now, granted, all those guys are older than Josh Hartnett, but Josh Hartnett's 46. He's getting up there. He's almost at 50. And it's just interesting to see him get put into this situation where, yeah, he's been an action star before, but, to take a more of a middle-aged guy, throw him into this movie and have him just, kick the shit out of people throughout the entire film, it kind of works, it kind of doesn't. But for me, it just didn't do much for me. The overall storyline, I didn't really have a whole lot going for it. Found myself hardly ever invested in what was going on. Basically, Hartnett plays a mercenary who gets hired for a job where he goes on a plane and has to protect one of the members of the plane. While being up there, both him and the person he's trying to protect have to avoid getting murdered by hundreds of people on this plane that are trying to murder both of them. It's pretty straightforward as far as the story goes, but there's just not a whole lot there, really. And outside of Hartnett, I didn't find really anybody else in the cast who was all that great. A few people are trying here and there. You got Katie Sackhoff in the movie, who's the person that hires Hartnett for this job. She's not really doing much. She feels like she's almost in a whole different movie than the one Hartnett's in, because it keeps going back to her down at her base that she's at. And it just feels like, okay, can we get back to the action that's going on the plane? Because every time you go down here, it just feels like we're in a different movie. And really outside of that, there's not a whole lot of notable people in the movie. You do have Carithra Condren, who is kind of the main female lead here alongside Hartnett. She plays a stewardess on the airplane. She's actually not too bad in the movie. She's doing some decent stuff and plays well off of Josh Hartnett for the most part. But outside of that, you really don't have too many other characters in this movie, and the ones that are here, the few handfuls of them that there are, they just don't have anything. It's basically just another person to get killed, left and right, and that's cool, I guess, but I don't know. This movie tonally feels like it doesn't really know what it wants to be. It is completely ridiculous, which is totally fine. I don't mind, crazy over-the-top action movies, but there's times where it feels too ridiculous, and then there's times where it feels maybe not so serious, but it, shies away from how tonally over the top it was beforehand. And it kind of goes back and forth and back and forth. There's some comedy thrown in here and there, and some of it works, some of it doesn't really work. A lot of the comedy comes from just how crazy a lot of the action is. And if this movie has really anything going for it, it is that the fight sequences and some of the action in the movie is very impressive. The choreography's done well, but the camera work and the direction feels like is what's taking away from a lot of it. There's points in the movie where just some of the action sequences feel like they're sped up, feels like they're shot in a weird way. There's points toward the end of the movie where characters on drugs, and there's a whole bunch of batshit crazy stuff going on that comes out of nowhere, and it's like, this movie doesn't really feel like it needs that kind of stuff here. And that's the problem with it, is it doesn't really seem like it knows what it wants. It's all over the place, and outside of Hartnett's good performance here and some decent action sequences from time to time, there's not much else to latch onto. And unfortunately, Fight or Flight just didn't really do much for me. So overall, I would give the movie probably about a C minus. It had some potential, and I like certain aspects of the movie, but overall, it just did not work for me in a lot of ways. And it's unfortunate because I really wanted to like it, especially with Hartnett in the lead, and outside of his performance, you could just forget about the rest of the movie. But yeah, that's about it for me, guys. When you get the opportunity to see Fight or Flight, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more reviews, rankings, all kinds of good stuff. I'll leave all my links down below on where you can follow me and check out more of my reviews. And until next time, I'll catch you guys later.